Most people hustle harder, pull overtime, and still watch their bank accounts shrink while a few seem to get richer by doing less. The harsh truth is that grinding more isn't the shortcut to wealth, it's the wrong shortcut. What if I told you that wealth actually comes from targeting a handful of high-leverage actions and letting everything else fall away? In the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal the exact formula the wealthy use, a formula most ambitious professionals ignore because it feels lazy. Stick around and you'll learn how to break free from busy work and start building wealth. The first lie we all buy is simple. The more hours you log, the richer you'll become. From schoolyard slogans to corporate pep talks, society programs us to equate hustle with honor. That narrative feels true because we can see the grind, late-night emails, endless meetings, side gigs that fills our calendars. Yet when you compare the paycheck of someone who works 80 hours a week at a salaried job to a partner who earns passive income from a single automated system, the math doesn't add up. The extra effort rarely translates into extra wealth. Instead, it creates a false sense of progress while your net worth stays flat. The reason we cling to that lie is something psychologists call identity homeostasis. Your self-concept is built around being the busy worker, the person who never stops moving. That identity is comfortable because it gives you a daily ritual, a badge of effort that validates your worth. When you try to shift from constant activity to strategic stillness, your brain interprets the change as a loss of status. It pushes you to fill the void with more tasks, even if those tasks have zero impact on your financial goals. In other words, the more you identify with busyness, the harder it becomes to adopt a targeted approach. Your brain also loves complexity. Evolution rewarded people who could juggle many small problems because that meant better survival chances. Modern life hijacks that wiring. We get dopamine spikes from checking emails, scrolling feeds, or crossing off tiny to-dos. A targeted, high-leverage activity often looks simple: one big move, then let the system run. That simplicity feels boring, even threatening, because it doesn't provide the same constant stream of micro-rewards. As a result, you instinctively reach for the next busy work distraction, convincing yourself that you're being productive while you're actually diluting your focus. Scattered effort isn't just inefficient, it's actively costly. Imagine you have $10,000 to invest. If you spend that money on a side hustle that nets 5% annual profit, but you also pour 20 hours a week into managing it, your effective hourly return drops to $2.50. Meanwhile, a single automated asset that compounds at 12% while requiring only a few minutes of setup yields an hourly return of over $70. The difference is the power of compounding. Every dollar you leave to work for you grows exponentially, while every hour you waste on low-impact tasks erodes that growth. The wealthy internalize that equation. They treat time as a finite asset with a clear ROI, and they allocate it first to activities that move the needle on net worth, not to tasks that merely fill the day. This mindset creates a hierarchy: one high-leverage income generators, two systems that automate those generators, and three peripheral tasks that support the system but never dominate it. By front-loading effort into the first two layers, they free up mental bandwidth for creativity, strategic planning, and leisure, everything that ultimately fuels more wealth. So far, we've uncovered why the hustle narrative keeps you stuck, how identity and brain chemistry sabotage focused action, and why every misplaced hour chips away at compounding gains. The good news is there's an alternative, a three-layer targeting system that flips the script. Next, I'll break down each layer, show why most get it wrong, and give the steps to start applying the formula today. The secret that separates the few who multiply money while they sleep from the masses stuck in endless busy work is a simple three-layer targeting system. Think of it as a sniper's approach. You pick the right target, you wait for the perfect moment, and you fire with a steady hand. If any layer is off, you waste ammo, your time, energy, and capital. Layer 1. Target the right vehicle. Why it matters. Most people chase income streams that look good on paper, side hustles, gig apps, or flashy startups, without checking whether those vehicles actually compound. A vehicle that merely adds cash each month caps your growth because you have to keep feeding it with effort. The wealthy lock onto assets that generate returns on autopilot: dividend-paying stocks, index funds, real estate that appreciates while tenants pay the mortgage, or digital products that sell forever after a single creation. The consequence of missing this layer is a ceiling you hit as soon as your hours run out. What it looks like: identify an asset class where the return compounds faster than your average salary increase. For most professionals, that means low-maintenance, high-leverage vehicles. Think a high-yield index fund with a 7% annual return, or a rental property that yields 8% cash on cash after expenses. The key is that the asset continues to work for you after the initial setup, without requiring daily input. How to implement: start by listing every current income source. Rate each on a 1-10 scale for automation potential and compounding power. Anything below a 6 on both dimensions gets dropped or delegated. Then allocate at least 20% of your investable cash to the highest scoring vehicle. If you're starting from zero, begin with a tax-advantaged index fund, set up an automatic monthly contribution, and let the market do the heavy lifting. Layer 2. Target the right timing. Why it matters: even the best vehicle can sputter if you jump in at the wrong moment. Timing isn't about guessing the market's next move, it's about aligning 3 simple cues. 1. Your emergency fund is solid. 2. You have a predictable cash flow surplus for the next 6 months. And 3. The asset's valuation or interest environment is favorable. The wealthy learn to read macro signals and personal liquidity to choose when to deploy capital. What it looks like: it isn't a crystal ball trick, it's 3 concrete checkpoints you can verify right now. First, your emergency fund must cover at least 3 months of living expenses in a liquid account. Second, calculate your monthly surplus. If you can set aside $500 a month, you'll have $3,000 ready to invest over the next 6 months. Third, set price or yield alerts on your chosen vehicle so you're notified when the valuation hits your predefined sweet spot. When all 3 boxes turn green, you press the buy button. If any box stays red, you hold off and keep building your surplus. How to implement: create a timing checklist and stick to it. First, confirm 3 months of liquid reserves. Second, map your monthly cash flow surplus and earmark that amount for the next 6-month window. Third, program alerts in your brokerage or real estate platform for the price or yield thresholds you defined. Layer 3. Target the right energy allocation. Why it matters: the 80-20 rule tells us a tiny slice of effort creates bulk of results, yet most of us spread our energy daily across low-impact tasks. When you pour hours into busy work, you create friction that erodes the compounding power of your high-leverage vehicle. What it looks like: once the vehicle and timing are set, block 2 hours weekly to manage it. How to implement: use the energy calendar method. At the start of each week, write down the single high-leverage task that moves your wealth forward. Block that time first, treating it as non-negotiable. Then allocate a single, limited window for low-value tasks. If a new request pops up that isn't directly tied to your vehicle, ask, "Does this help my compounding engine?" If the answer is no, defer or delegate. Over a month, you'll see the hours you saved translate directly into higher net worth growth. The lazy person's wealth sequence. Step 1. Identify your single highest leverage wealth activity. Why it matters: most professionals scatter effort across dozens of side projects, hoping one will stick. Each extra project dilutes focus, creates decision fatigue, and slows the feedback loop you need to iterate quickly. When you concentrate on the one activity that promises the biggest return per hour, you give your brain a clear signal: this is the priority, everything else is noise. The result is exponential growth because the activity compounds on itself. More output leads to more resources, which in turn fuels more output. What to do: grab a notebook and list every recurring task you spend time on: client work, content creation, networking events, freelance gigs, etc. Next to each, write the estimated monthly revenue and the hours you invest. Divide revenue by hours to get a rough dollar per hour metric. Highlight the item with the highest number. Then ask yourself, does this activity have the potential to be automated or outsourced? If the answer is yes, you've found the true highest leverage activity. How to apply now: choose the top candidate and commit to spending the next 48 hours exclusively on improving it. Shut down email, mute notifications, and treat the time as sacred. By the end of that window, you should have a concrete deliverable: an upgraded sales page, a refined service offering, or a prototype product. That immediate output proves the concept works and gives you a tangible asset to automate later. Step 2. Create systems that run this activity on autopilot. Why it matters: the strategic disappearance principle says wealth grows when your effort disappears from the equation. If you keep manually executing the activity, you remain hostage to your own schedule, and scaling stays a linear function of your available hours. Systems break that linearity. They turn a manual process into a repeatable, low-maintenance engine that can operate while you sleep or focus on unrelated pursuits. What to do: map the workflow of your chosen activity step by step. Identify any repetitive actions: client onboarding, emails, invoice generation, content publishing, or lead follow-up. For each repetitive step, ask, can software handle it? Can a virtual assistant execute it? Can a template replace it? Implement tools like Zapier for automation, Calendly for scheduling, and invoicing platforms for billing. If the activity is product-based, set up a sales funnel with a landing page, email sequence, and payment processor that runs unattended. How to apply now: pick the first repetitive task in your workflow and build a simple automation for it within the next 24 hours. For example, if you spend 30 minutes each day sending introductory emails, create a template and a mail merge script that sends them automatically when a new lead is added to your CRM. Test the system, tweak any errors, and then schedule it to run daily. Once that piece is autonomous, move on to the next step in the chain. Within a week, you should have at least 2 or 3 components fully automated, reducing your manual involvement by a measurable percentage. Step 3. Stack these systems to create multiple income streams that require minimal maintenance. Why it matters: a single automated stream is powerful, but the wealthy rarely rely on one source. Stacking creates redundancy, smooths cash flow volatility, and multiplies the compounding effect. Each new stack leverages the infrastructure you already built, so the incremental effort is tiny compared to the potential revenue lift. What to do: review other skills or assets you already own, an existing audience, a professional network, a piece of intellectual property, or even a spare room you could rent. Ask yourself how each could be packaged into a low-maintenance product: an ebook, a short-form course, a licensing agreement, or a subscription service. Then plug those offerings into the automation framework you designed in Step 2. Use the same email sequence, payment gateway, and delivery mechanism, merely swapping the content. How to apply now: choose one secondary asset, say a 20-page guide you wrote last year. Convert it into a downloadable PDF, upload it to a simple storefront like Gumroad, and connect the purchase trigger to the email automation you already have. Promote it in the same channels you use for your primary activity, but let the system handle fulfillment. Track the revenue for the first week. If it meets a modest threshold, e.g. $200, you've validated the stacking concept. Repeat the process with another asset, such as a consulting hour package that books itself via Calendly, and watch the streams accumulate. Addressing the psychological discomfort of doing less while building more wealth. Why it matters: our culture rewards visible hustle, and stepping back can feel like betrayal of your own work ethic. The brain interprets idle time as a threat to status, which triggers anxiety and the urge to fill the gap with busy work. Ignoring that signal sabotages the very systems you're trying to build. What to do: reframe the narrative. Instead of "I'm lazy," adopt the label strategic allocator. Write down 3 concrete outcomes that your new systems will deliver: extra cash for a vacation, a safety net for family, or time to learn a new skill. Keep those outcomes visible on your desk. When guilt spikes, remind yourself that each minute saved is a minute added to the compounding engine. How to apply now: set a daily wealth minute timer for 5 minutes. During that time, review the metrics of your automated streams: revenue, conversion rate, system errors. Celebrate any positive movement, however small. This ritual trains your brain to associate idle moments with progress, not with failure. Overcoming guilt and social pressure to appear busy. Why it matters: friends, colleagues, and even family often equate activity with value. When you start saying "I'm not working on that project today," you risk judgment, which can erode confidence. What to do: communicate the new approach as a strategic shift, not a retreat. Explain that you're reallocating effort toward high-leverage assets that ultimately benefit everyone: more financial stability, more free time for relationships, and a stronger professional brand. How to apply now: draft a concise message to your close circle. I'm focusing on automating my core service so I can deliver better results faster. It means I'll be less visible in day-to-day tasks, but the payoff will be higher quality work for you. Send it, and notice the relief that comes from setting expectations. Real-world examples of targeted laziness beating grinding. Why it matters: stories anchor abstract concepts in reality, making them easier to emulate. What to do: look for case studies where individuals turned a single high-leverage activity into an automated income stream. How to apply now: spend 10 minutes researching a creator on YouTube who built a passive income channel by repurposing long-form videos into short-form clips that upload automatically. Note the steps they took, and consider how you could mirror that process in your own niche. Why does the hard-working identity sabotage wealth creation? Because it ties value to visible effort, not to actual results. When you define yourself as the person who never rests, every idle minute feels like a personal failure. That mindset forces you to fill the day with tasks that look busy, even if they add $0 to your net worth. The result is a self-reinforcing loop. Busy work prays right arrow more busy work, while the compounding engine stays dormant. What you need is a neural pathway rewiring that swaps busy equals worthy for strategic laziness equals powerful. The brain loves shortcuts. It will gladly adopt a new shortcut if you give it a clear, repeatable cue. Start by attaching a simple trigger to every wealth-building action: a specific phrase, a visual cue, or a time block. For example, every time you sit down to review your automated income dashboard, say out loud, "I'm optimizing my future," and press the same start button on your computer. Over weeks, that cue becomes a habit loop that tells your brain, "This is the activity that matters," and gradually dims the urge to chase low-value tasks. How do you handle the social pressure that comes with abandoning the grind? People love to measure success by hours logged, not by balance sheets. When you start saying, "I'm not working on that spreadsheet today," you'll hear questions like, "Are you slacking?" The key is to frame the conversation around impact, not effort. Explain that you're reallocating time to a high-leverage system that will deliver higher returns for the whole team. When you speak in terms of outcomes, I'm freeing up capacity to launch the new product faster. You shift the narrative from laziness to strategic efficiency. The psychological tools that keep you anchored to the new identity are simple but powerful. First, use future self-visualization. Spend 2 minutes each morning picturing yourself a year from now, sitting comfortably while your automated streams generate the cash flow you need. Feel the relief, the freedom, the confidence. That vivid image creates an emotional anchor that outweighs the fleeting guilt of not being busy. Second, employ commitment contracts. Write a short agreement with yourself. I will not take on any new low ROI task until my primary system hits X in monthly revenue. Sign it, place it somewhere you'll see it daily, and treat breaking it as a real loss. Why does aligning identity with wealth-building behavior compound over time? Because each successful execution reinforces the new self concept, which in turn makes the next execution easier. It's a positive feedback loop. You act strategically, see results, feel validated, and your brain updates its belief about what hard work looks like. Over months, the old busy worker narrative fades, replaced by a strategic allocator story that attracts opportunities, partners, and resources that fit the new paradigm. Before we move to the practical steps, remember this core checkpoint. If you ever catch yourself falling back into endless email checking or meeting hopping, pause, ask, is this moving my compounding engine forward? If the answer is no, redirect that energy to a high-leverage activity. That simple question is the guardrail that keeps the identity shift on track. Now let's translate this mindset into a concrete 30-day plan that you can start. Implementation blueprint for the next 30 days. Week 1, audit and targets. Pull a simple spreadsheet of everything you did in the past 2 weeks. List each activity, the time spent, and any direct cash it produced. Divide cash by hours to get a dollar per hour rate. Highlight the activity with the highest rate. If none earn anything, pick a proven high-leverage vehicle, low-fee index fund. Why it matters? Seeing numbers shatters the busy equals productive myth and forces you to drop low-return tasks. Immediately schedule a 30-minute daily block for the next 7 days that is devoted only to improving the highlighted activity. No meetings, no email. Week 2, eliminate and delegate. For every low-value task, ask, can I automate, outsource, or delete it? Use Zapier for auto-filing, set email filters, or hire a virtual assistant for routine work. Record the hours you free each day. Aim for at least 2 extra hours. The guilt of doing less is real. Counter it by recalling the commitment contract you wrote earlier. Every reclaimed minute is an investment in your compounding engine. Log each eliminated task on a wins board to see progress. Week 3, build the first system. Choose the platform that matches your target. For an ETF, set up an automatic monthly contribution. For a digital product, build a landing page, Stripe checkout, and instant delivery email. Spend 3 days mapping the workflow, then 3 days wiring the automation. Test every trigger, email, payment, delivery, and fix any friction. This step compounds because once the system runs unattended, the only input you need is the initial capital. All weekly effort becomes pure cash flow you can reinvest. Week 4, stack and scale. Identify a second high-leverage asset that complements the first, a rental property for cash flow, a short-form video series repurposing your digital product, or a retainer-based consulting package. Replicate the same automation steps. Schedule launch, set recurring billing, and attach to the existing email sequence. Track 3 metrics weekly. A. Total revenue per system. B. Hours spent maintaining versus creating, and C. Net cash on cash return. If maintenance exceeds 10% of your weekly hours, pause, troubleshoot, and only then add another layer. By day 30, you should have at least 2 self-sustaining streams, a clear dashboard showing progress, and a habit loop that automatically routes your time to the highest leverage actions. To keep momentum, review your dashboard every Sunday, celebrate any revenue bump, and adjust the next week's target if a system underperforms. Treat each metric as a scorecard. When a number moves in the right direction, you've reinforced the strategic laziness habit. Consistency over 30 days is the bridge between theory and real wealth. Focus on scaling the system, not adding tasks. The engine should run itself daily efficiently. Remember, real wealth isn't built by doing more tasks. It's built by doing the right few tasks on autopilot, letting the compounding engine work while you relax. If you're ready to trade endless busy work for strategic laziness, hit subscribe, grab the next video on scaling automated income, and drop a comment with the first high-leverage action you'll automate this week. The sooner you lock in this formula, the faster your passive streams grow, giving you freedom to focus on what truly matters in life. Start today, track your metrics, and watch the compounding effect turn small steps into financial freedom.